Paxton now stringing out.
The wind is picking up. That's a 2 second delay. Yeah. I'm not giving times, just places with that. Might not be a bad idea, because I mean, you can see that it's coming in that way. Well, yeah, I guess if you move it onto the other table. 232. Yep, so they have slowed down just a bit. Still Theodore Milano of Hopkinton in the lead.
Mm-hmm. And here comes the wind.
Oh yeah, and we have a southerly facing opening in our tent, which is kind of turning this into a big old sail.
And there's another pack forming. It's going to be a battle for second. They come through.
Just under 4 minutes for the last lap to go.
Yep. I think they missed the bell.
Yep.
Now this rain must be tough to run.
Yeah, the combination of the rain plus the wind has to make it a little bit harder to run in.
Does not look like he's gonna break 5.
Nope. Still a solid PR for him, though. His seed time coming in was 5:27.
Yeah, here's Trent. 20 seconds
so that's
faster. In the rain.
15-second PR.
Oh. Some big packs coming in.
Should try to get another wall for this because it's letting the wind in, which is like going to pick up the tent. This table is not a good anchor for that wall.
Here comes the next heat.
So this should be our last unseeded heat. It's like Tyler Scopelites of Campbell, Matthew Bernier of Conant, Joseph Wasson of Kingswood, Josh Barnwell of Conant, Ben Stone of Oyster River, Oscar Miller of Bishop Brady, Aiden Kellogg from Kearsarge, Shepard Murdo from Hopkinton, Tyler Rose of Co-Brown, Eric Hilliard from John Stark, Ethan Dodenhoff of Merrimack Valley, Ethan Weinhold of Conant, Tom Lick of Kearsarge, Gavin Garcia of Kearsarge, Andrew Pinsence of Somersworth, Haven Deshane of Conval, Noah Cavallo of Sanborn, and Andrew Pugh of Sanborn as well. Clean start there.
They're
A little bit of jockeying for position in the back there,
Yeah.
but the lead runner's out clean. It's, Tyler Scopelights of Campbell taking the early lead.
Pretty big heat. Probably
And,
around 31, 32.
Quick opening 200. So this is where things get interesting for the hurdlers.
Yeah.
With the wet track.
That's going to be tough.
Again, especially the ones who are trying to do it in trainers and not spikes.
So the lead runner from Campbell comes through
71.
At 70. What a big lead.
Big gap, yep.
And that's a huge pack right following behind them. Hopkinton, I think.
So that was about what Colm Sane from Hanover went through his first 400 in. He was able to hold that pace, though, pretty much throughout, finishing in about a 4:49.
See if he can beat that. Well, it does look like he's starting to slow down a bit.
Yep. That first 200 was awfully fast, coming through at 31.
Yeah.
Problem with this, when you get into that anaerobic zone too quickly, you really can't ever come back from it. So a fast 100 meters is okay, but a fast 200 is pushing the limits.
And that's a big pack behind them for third.
Yeah, that's a huge pack. Sitting right off of,
it's gonna
looks
come
like
through.
that is from Oyster River, Ben Stone right now in third with a huge pack behind him.
As they went through the 800 at about 227.
Yep.
232 now, 234.
So going from a 71 to about a 77 in the second lap. It looks like they have a solution to the water that's going to be collecting in the lanes. There's a leaf blower that the meet director, Bob Mullen, has strapped to his back, and he's going to blow some of this water off the track. Looks like lane 5 has a lot of puddles in it.
Still a pretty sizable gap.
Yep.
Between first, second, and third.
All right, 110, let's go.
So coming into his final lap here, we have Tyler Scopelights of Campbell, who has led from the gun.
We'll see if anyone in that big pack has any kick left.
They are all chasing him. 1 lap to go. So Tyler's on pace to go sub 5 minutes rather.
Yeah.
If he can close in that 71 that he opened in.
Looks like his arm's starting to move.
Yep.
Right.
Good indication that he's picked up his speed when you see those arms pump.
Stride is opening up.
Feet follow the hands. Quick hands, quick feet.
He's pushing now.
Yep. He's trying to open up his stride as best he can.
Looks like he's going to break 5.
Yep.
Just kick.
4:58 maybe.
Yep. $450 right now, so he's not gonna beat his Hanover earlier today.
4:58. Yep. Good time. That's basically a little bit slower than his seed time, but
No, it's still good in this rain too.
yeah, considering the wind and rain they're dealing with, that's a good time. And watching them set up for the hurdles.
Attention all athletes, this is the first and final call for the girls' 100-meter hurdles. Those are the only athletes that should be under the middle tent except for the finish boys from the seated.
Oops.
Attention all athletes, this is the first and final call for the third flight of the boys' javelin. Third flight, boys' javelin, please check in at this time.
Looks like the hurdles are all set out. Still trying to get those puddles off the track.
And it looks like we're getting set up for the hurdles. Do have a little bit of water coming down, as you can clearly see, and a little bit has collected on the track, so trying to move that out of the way so it's not too slick of a surface for our hurdles to go. One benefit of the hurdles with the rain like this, I guess if you could say a benefit, is all these athletes should be wearing some spikes, which will help them with the traction. So that's a small little saving victory, I guess.
And the white flag is up.
Do have a wind coming from the south. Starting to blow the rain a little bit. Another saving grace, of course, is that it is warm out, which means that hopefully we won't see any injuries, assuming all these athletes have warmed up properly. But looks like we are going to go ahead and have a start here.
Yes.
Our gun is up. And they're off.
Good first hurdle.
Yeah, right away we're seeing a good lead from the middle two there. And quite a bit of a driving rain. So, got a question for you, Dave.
Yes. Do I remember in 2008 when it snowed here? Yes, I do.
Not quite what I was thinking. A lot warmer today than that day, but with hurdles, so some running events, I know for me, 100, 200, I'm in a lane. I don't really have to be watching where I'm going as long as I'm running straight, so vision isn't too important. Hurdles, you got to see that hurdle coming up at you, right?
Well, for the top runners, no, because they built up that repetition so they know pretty much when they're in stride. But where it is important is the people to the left and right of you if you're running in lane 2 through 5, because you do have to watch out for somebody else swinging their arms or legs into your lane or kicking over your hurdle. That's where it could present a little bit of a problem to you.
Yeah, we'll see that a lot with trail legs kind of going over into the neighboring lane.
Right.
So
especially when you have, as we've mentioned, the track is pretty wet. If somebody either to your left or right is running with
and they're off
trainers and they slip, they could make things much more difficult for you.
So that looks like Dylan Lassard of Merrimack Valley off to a good start.
Well, he's one of the top hurdlers this year in Division 2.
And he will take the win.
Yep. Looking back over his shoulder.
Followed closely by Traven of Sanborn. And then I think that was that John Stark coming in third? I missed it.
It did look like a blue uniform. So it would either be Sanborn or John Stark.
Okay. So we'll take a look at the Heat 3 now of the men's 110-meter hurdles.
You can see on the track the rain is tending to pool right around lane 5.
Yeah, they were blowing it earlier,
Yeah,
trying to move the moisture. So in lane 1, we have Christopher of Goffstown. Lane 2, Joseph of John Stark. Lane 3, John of Pelham. Lane 4, Colin of John Stark. Lane 5, Aiden from Belmont. And lane 6, Logan from White Mountains.
So our first 3 heats are their seeded heats, and they will be moving on to the finals with our 4th heat, the unseeded. And Eli John of Pelham is our top seed right now coming in with a seed time of a 15.48, which is a very good time.
And what do we have to do? 6 advanced, top 2 in each heat, plus the...
I believe it's the top none. 6 times
it's
overall.
Going all time today?
Yep.
Some really good form snapping down from
Eli John.
Yep.
And he will easily win his heat. That looked to be even faster than his seed, maybe a 15.3. We'll have to check the live results for that one.
And, of course, timing today, done by Speed Sport Timing, our Meat Hub sponsor. They're putting up with the rain, getting the job done.
Although they're in a trailer, I don't know that they're putting up with it all that much.
I know a lot of their equipment is not in that trailer.
That's true. That's true. And that's Chris and Brian always doing a outstanding job. They do have live results up for us. Let's see if we can find that. Eli John, 15.30, so that is even better than his seed time. That is outstanding considering the conditions that he's running in right now.
Yeah, he should be pretty happy with that. Looks like we do have our gun up and the runners are off.
This is our unseeded heat of boys 110 hurdles.
So Sean lane 1, Zach lane 2, Eric lane 3, Rio lane 4, Austin lane 5, and Crimson lane 6. Ooh, as we see a little bit of a spill there.
Yep.
And this looks like it is between...
Most of these boys look like they'd be running in trainers. A couple of them in spikes.
Yeah. Yeah, a day like today, you really want to be using those spikes.
Yes, you do.
3/16 here at MV, I believe.
That is their recommended length, yes.
Recommended. Would you go with something else today?
Given the surface, I might actually go with a 1/4 inch today. Because their surface is a little bit on the older side, so it's not as grippy as it used to be, using that technical term there, grippy. They are moving the hurdles for the girls. And they have the boys first in the prelims out of convenience for adjusting the hurdles. That way they only have to lower them once and then raise them back up for the boys. They don't have to raise them, lower them, and raise them again.
Let's go. Head on down there, ladies. You're going to get wet. This is the first and final call for the boys 100-meter dash. First and final call. Boys, 100-meter dash.
So as we wait for our hurdle crew to finish setting up the hurdles, we have 3 heats of the girls. So, 3 seeded heats and then 4 unseeded heats. In our first heat, we have Stephanie from Goffstown, Rebecca from Merrimack Valley, Sana from Belmont, Jacqueline from Pelham, Amelia from Cobrown, and Megan of Oyster River. I see that it is indeed top 2 from each of the preliminary heats that will be moving on to the finals after the steeplechase exhibition event.
And they're off.
That is Sana of Belmont in the lead right now, early on.
Yeah,
And Jacqueline
17.
from Pelham finishing second, so the 2 of them will move on to the finals. A steady rain now coming down at the 19th annual Merrimack Valley Invitational. Our very sophisticated rain gear that we have set up in the tent. Keep the water out.
And the second heat of the girls hurdles is off.
Attention all athletes, this is the first and final call.
Kingswood.
For the fourth flight of the boys long jump. 4th flight boys long jump, please check in at this time.
17.
Gentlemen, please enter the track from the enter area, not hopping over ropes. Thank you.
Doing what we can to stay dry.
Attention Linda Barnwell. Attention Linda Barnwell.
Keeping the equipment dry is priority number 1.
Please retrieve it from the track shack front window.
Looks like this tent is not waterproof. You can see the rain coming in through the seams of the top. The seams in the tent, that's where the water's coming through.
Strong race.
That looked like Kaylin from Sanborn and Sarah from Kingswood. And they're ready for the next heat. This should be heat 3 third and final heat, seeded heat. Sorry, that was Sarah and Allison in that second heat, moving on to the finals.
Looks like they're moving through these heats.
Yeah, I see only 3 runners in
They're all from
this heat, and they are all from Plymouth.
Plymouth.
In our third heat, we had Tama and Kate moving on to the finals.
And now the track is like completely covered with water.
Yeah. Track is definitely saturated.
Hmm. And then they're flying through these heats, trying to keep everyone as dry out of the rain most possible.
Well, with this really heavy stuff, I'm just risking my equipment fogging up, especially it's so humid out, and then I'm done for the day. And it's for the big wind stuff. And then, so I'm just taking pictures of the window.
We could be a lot worse if we didn't have this tent.
Yeah.
Although, if we didn't have this tent, we wouldn't be doing this broadcast. That's for sure. Even on a bright, sunny day, we still have the tent. I can see they have the next heat all lined up.
Yep.
All 6 lanes in this one. You know, this is Haley, Sydney, Promise, Isabella, Kaylee, and Annika.
Hurdle crew, please remove the
Oh,
hurdles.
I think
Leave them at the
Oyster
current height
River,
they are at.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
Please,
got
3
that
and 3.
heat.
3 on one side, 3 on the other. Sorry, one more.
So we have one final heat of girls. And then we will have the boys 100-meter dash prelims immediately following that as soon as they get the track cleared of the hurdles. Yeah, every lane is now saturated with water.
So you're saying an equal disadvantage?
Yes. Been told by the meet director here, Jeff Nielsen, that Merrimack Valley is getting a new track, not this coming year, but the following year. They're looking to get theirs replaced.
Have the gun up, set, and they're off.
Here is heat 4 of 4.
Pretty close, actually, compared to some of the other ones we've seen today.
Yep. This is Kayla, Cameron, Tally, Reese, Gianna, and Allison.
There you go, hurdle crew.
And that's
The
Allison
following boys
from John Stark winning that heat.
have qualified for the 110-meter hurdle finals that will take place after our break. They are as follows.
So there
Kevin Lee
indeed
of
is a
Sanford
break
Regional.
going to be
John
happeing
Lassard of Merrimack Valley.
after the 2,000-meter steeplechase.
John Ellie of Pelham. Jason Sulu of Summersworth. And Joseph Wegman of John Stark. Wegman, Sulu, Ely, Army, Lassard, Leake have qualified for the 110.
See them
finals.
clearing the hurdles off now.
Yep.
Do have our dashes coming up.
Yep.
Haven't looked recently. Feel like there's a lot of heats of those.
So there appears to be there's the 3 seeded heats of the boys, and then 14 unseeded. And on the girls, we have 3 and 13. So, yeah, there's about 30 heats overall in the 100-meter dash. And you would think that having multiple heats of something like the 1600 would be inefficient, but believe it or not, it's the 100s, 200s that actually slow the meet down the most.
Yep,
because you have about 15 seconds of action, and you get 45 seconds to a minute and a half in between each heat, and that really, really adds up quickly when you're talking about 30 heats. Whereas, you know, 3 heats of the 1500, even if they take 7 minutes apiece, you're only talking a minute in between, so there's not as much time lost. That is something that took us as meet directors several years to figure out, that was the reason for meets taking so long. It wasn't the multiple heats of the mile or 2 mile, it was the 25 to 30 heats of those dashes that actually really slows the meet down.
Yeah, it's all about limiting that downtime in between the events. Anything you can do to have the next event ready to roll. And we'll see, too, that as soon as the first heat goes out, the next heat should be fixing their blocks. And
even a really efficient starter and timing crew, if they can get it down to 45 seconds, that's pretty much the ideal. You know, that's still a minute and a half every 2 heats that you're adding. And if you're running 30 heats, you're talking an extra 20 to 25 minutes.
So we do have our gun up. Runners are in the blocks. Dave, who do we have in this heat?
In this first seeded heat, we've got Ben, JJ, Dell, William, Mikhail, and Nicholas.
Looks like lane 1, maybe lane 3.
That's lane 3. That is Dell, Bonsu, and then from Conval.
Ended up looking like a pretty nice flying V there.
Yep.
As we do see our faster seeds will be in the middle lanes.
Right.
So preferred lanes for being in lanes totally would be 3 and 4 on a 6-lane track, and then it will branch out from there 2, 5, 1, 6.
And with these being our seeded heats, they do what's called the serpentine seeding. So your top 3 runners will be in separate heats. And then your next 3 best will also be spread out over 3 heats, so that you don't have your top runners all running against each other in the preliminary heats, as that would be somewhat anticlimactic if you have your 6 fastest runners in the first heat. And if you're advancing on time, they would all have to run fast in order to advance.
Right.
And if you're advancing on place, that's really not fair to those top runners if they're all running against each other.
Yeah, you want to stagger them out a little bit. Otherwise, you have finals version 1, finals version 2, and this way it gets a little bit more opportunity to the other 12 guys in contention for it.
But the advantage still has to be given to the fastest runners.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to run the time to get yourself to finals, and the fastest runners will do that. As we do see, they are in their blocks now and off.
We have William, Nick, Remy, Tyler, Joseph, and Eli in this heat. Remy Beaujuan from Plymouth is our top seed, and he is going to win this heat too.
Similar flying V there.
Yep.
Missing one of the runners. Didn't quite catch what lane.
And we should see our overall number 1 seeded runner from Manchester West in this third heat, Ken Kabambi, coming in with an 11.52.
Not a bad early season time.
Nope, not
Definitely
at all.
expect that to drop as the temperature becomes more favorable for the sprinters.
Yep.
Not a terrible day-to-day for sprinting. The only issue is that once your uniform gets wet,
You say wet.
it's weighing you down a bit, and it's restricting motion ever so slightly, and that can end up adding up when you're talking about only running 100 meters, only running less than 12 seconds.
Unless you happen to have a clothes dryer that you brought with you and you can throw your uniform in the dryer in between heats.
Not sure that effect will last very long anyway.
I'm sure there is a home ec room in the middle school still. There was when I was here back 100 years ago.
Oh, I was going to give you 2 or 3 years.
Nope.
And they're off.
Ken with a good long acceleration phase.
Yep, pretty close battle, but we do see our favorite in lane 3.
Oh, he leaned quite a bit early.
Yeah, he stopped short.
He leaned about 10 meters before the line. I'm not sure what he was.
I think he might have ended up getting past because of it.
Yeah, he definitely got past. So he leaned right at the trailer instead of at the finish line. So he got passed by several runners. He is probably not going to make the finals. Don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah, I know some tracks can be confusing. We see it all the time at indoor for Dartmouth where there's multiple lines. And
yeah,
if you, I always tell the athletes, you got to look at what line you're finishing at. You'll see the finish post will always be at that line. We can see line there. We'll see our tent there.
Well, and it's interesting because in an outdoor track, you almost never have 2 finish lines. The tracks are designed on purpose to have one common finish line.
Right.
So all of the races are staggered so that they all finish at the same spot. In Dartmouth, it's a little different because they have, you know, it's an undersized track. It's only 200 meters.
And they're off. And again, as we look at the track, we'll see 10 meters before the finish line, we have our triangles for our relay exchange, but that is
not a finish line.
No.
That is. Oh. So now we're going to have our 14 heats of our unseeded 100. So that's unfortunate for Ken Kabambi of Manchester West to have misinterpreted where the finish line actually was.
Good news is it's early in the season. He'll get it figured out.
Yep.
And when we do look at the lean like that, basically what happens in terms of the timing is we're looking at where the chest crosses first. So as soon as your chest crosses that line, that vertical plane, that is when the clock stops for you. So we'll see the athletes always kind of do a lean. But if you lean too early, too late, too early it slows you down, too late, well, what good was it? So it's always all about that timing. As we do pick up the time in between heats now.
And we should say that it's actually anywhere between the waist and the shoulders, but it's much easier to get your shoulders in front of your waist than the other way around when you're running. I've yet to see anybody finish with a pelvic thrust across the line.
Not a good-looking finish, at least.
Technically, it would count. So what you can't do is try to kick your feet ahead of you or your arms. Those don't count. Even your head doesn't count. It's the first part of the torso crossing first.
In all events, the first clock is not at the finish line. The second one is at the finish line.
And we see the...
Please do not slow down at the first clock.
We can hear the announcer, Jeff Nielsen, who is also the meet director, one of the meet directors, telling the athletes that first display clock is not the finish line, which is perhaps what the Manchester West athlete thought. So just like at a road race, the clock is not the finish line. The finish line is the finish line.
Yep. See our gun up now, and they're off.
Yep. So now we have a combination of athletes now using blocks and opting not to use the blocks. So as long as one athlete is using the blocks, the starter has to go through the 3-command start instead of the 2-command start when you don't use blocks. With nobody using blocks, you would not have to give the set command. It would just be on your marks and then fire the gun.
Yeah. So I just took a quick look around. Weather like this obviously has a huge impact on field events as well. Pole
Most
vault,
definitely.
You can't really be jumping, vaulting when
Yeah.
the weather's like this. Your pole gets
Looks
a little
like
bit.
they have the cover
too
on
wet.
the mats right now.
Yeah.
So
Then-
they're obviously hoping that the rain stops so they can continue that event.
High jump, they'll keep going through some rain, but I tell you,
Oh, yeah.
when you land on that mat, it is.
It's like jumping into a pool.
Yep. As we see this heat take off.
Yep. This looks like heat number 4.
And with the unseeded heats, as we do see a win from lane 6, a heat win, with these unseeded heats, we won't see as much of that flying V with it, as some of
Yep.
these times will.
Especially with freshmen coming in, they may have not run this race before. And
A lot of entry times are based off of hand time, and those can be somewhat
or even
inaccurate.
more less accurate is the projected time that a coach might give based
Yes.
on who the kid is and what they've
Yeah.
been doing in practice, which is not always a good indicator either. But it's why you run these races rather than just score it off of the paper.
Oh yeah, and
seed
again,
times.
early on, so now all these athletes will have a nice FAT, fully automatic time to their name so that they can have a little bit better of a seating. And as we see the meets go on, we'll see it be a little bit more competitive heat to heat.
Yeah. And that's a change in New Hampshire. Only the second year that they've implemented the fully automatic qualifying times for the state meets.
Which personally I like. What are your thoughts on it?
Totally agree. No, I absolutely agree. There are enough larger invitationals like this, in the Black Bear Invitational next week and the Nashua North Invitational, which is going on this weekend as well. There's enough of them throughout the state that most schools should have the ability to get to and compete in a meet with fully automatic timing. So there's absolutely no reason that you can't use an FAT requirement for qualifying.
Yeah, we're starting to see. And
that's not to say you can't use a time from a non-FAT meet. You just have to convert it to an FAT time.
Which would be rounding the hundredths up and then adding 0.24.
0.24 seconds, right.
And then what we're seeing too is some of these weekday meets, even if it's a smaller meet, few of them are actually starting to get some FAT with it.
Yes, they are. Yep.
I'm assuming the trend will continue that way as the years progress, because I know as a sprint coach, I don't really care what a kid gets for a 100 time in a Tuesday meet that's hand time, and it's totally inaccurate, and really it's
and
days
even
like today.
even for the longer distances where you wouldn't think it would matter, it makes a difference in the actual time, not so much the placing, because placing is easy enough to do in the longer races, but the times can be off by even 0.2 of a second from a hand time.
Oh, absolutely. Another close heat. And potentially another win from
Very
lane
close.
6.
Yep. Looks like it may have been out in lane 6. You don't see that all that often. Typically your fastest runners would be in lane 3 or 4.
As an athlete, I tell you, days like today, I didn't really mind running once you get wet, but it's always a process to get there. And an interesting thing now, I know commentators are starting to think about food a little bit, is meets that go on like this where you have an invite that's going to be all day. Is one thing you always have to think about as an athlete is what are you eating, what are you putting in your body, and what events do you have left, and it's always that little balancing act.
Well, things have definitely changed from when I was competing in the mid-90s. We often would just go without food for the whole day, and looking back on it now, that probably was why so many of us didn't have our best races at the end of the meet. our first event was usually our best event.
Yeah. No, I know when I was running back in the late 2000s, we'll say it, you know, I'd always try and nibble here and there, but a lot of times it was going from one event to the next. So it's, you know, it's a totally different ball game too when you're talking sprinter versus distance runner. When
Yep.
a sprinter jumper might have 4 events, whereas a distance runner might only have the one or the two, and maybe a relay at the end. And then of course can't leave out our throwers who I won't comment on.
Well, they were the they were the one group of athletes even back in the day that would be consistently snacking throughout the meet. Oftentimes in competition, they would be eating.
Oh, a little grease on the hand just helps,
right? Yeah, I mean that was their joke. You know, they were very good humored about that.
And I believe this would be section 8 of 14.
So we're more than halfway through this boys 100 prelims.
And with the prelims, the unseeded, what they do is they go slowest heats to fastest. We'll see this a lot of times too, as it gives the last heats kind of a time to beat, so to say. Obviously, a little bit different today with our 3 heats of seeded runners.
Right.
Interested to see what we're starting to do in terms of times today. See if we can't get a little bit of some live results up for you. Just give you a little idea of what's going on. It looks like we have section 9 about to go off now. And a good start. As we see
Sam wants me to get you.
another decently close race.
We don't have any final results because outside of the 4x8 we haven't actually run any finals. Going to see if maybe there were some field event results. It's like I'm being joined now by Tyler Kasich.
Yep.
It's man a few words.
Yes.
This would be, I think, heat number 9.
Looks like a pretty close battle.
Heat number 10, rather. Conant's a good landmark to use. Their bright orange uniforms are really easy to see. That was John, Jack, Pete, Andrew, Cole, and Brandon. So we got 4 more heats of this 100 dash. And then we should see the girls starting to gather. The rain's let up a little bit. Not coming down quite as hard. The wind has died down.
Yeah, even though it is raining, it's pretty warm out in the 60s.
Oh, it is. It's very humid.
Yeah.
Being inside this tent feels a little bit like being in a sauna. Heat 11. I hear the leaf blower again. They must be clearing some water off the track.
Yeah, that's a clever way to get the water off the track.
It is. A little bit more efficient than a squeegee. Heat 12 now lining up. Kyle, Kale, Pedro, Jackson, Justin, and Holden. So do these runners still using blocks? That's good. The more you can practice using the blocks, the better you will be at them. Oops, we had a little slippage there. That is a challenge when it gets wet. The blocks can be really slippery. Any quick motion on those can cause your feet to slip out of them. It's going to get reset. Pardon my sneezing if you heard that. Heat 12 finished. Pretty much even with their seed times. Heat 13, we have Neody, Troy, Thomas, Marcus, Hagen, and Carter. And these preliminary heats, or these unseeded heats rather, they are being run slow to fast. So our fastest non-seeded heat should be the last one. It's a good view of the finish from our finish line camera, or view of the start rather. Heat 13, second to last heat, is off clean. That is Troy Gulesian of Raymond.
So it looked to me like we did a little rerun of one of our seated sections. Did you see that?
That was not a rerun of a seated section. That was a teammate of.
Okay, I thought I had heard someone say that, but I couldn't confirm it. Just double checking.
They might be. I mean, they could be doing one after our section 14.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I don't know that I think that's really necessary for the one athlete who didn't recognize where the finish line was, because the other guys did.
As long as it didn't affect everyone in the heat, then.
I mean, you could maybe insert that one kid into another heat, but making the entire heat run again, I don't think is necessarily fair to do.
Attention coaches. Coaches with athletes who are in the
and as these times get a little bit faster, we do start to see more of the appropriate seating going on.
That was Michael, Lucas, Mo, Ben, and Thomas, with Mo winning that heat from Hanover. So that should have been our final boys heat.
It looks like we do have some girls getting into their blocks now.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Personally, I wouldn't mind doing a bonus little 100, get another time on it. But
well, if I were that, if that had been me who misread the finish line, yes, I would want another chance. But as a coach of those other athletes, I don't necessarily want my athlete running a second time if they, knew where the finish line was and ran the race as they were supposed to. I wouldn't want my athlete running again.
And I would argue you as my former coach, but, it's because I always wanted to.
Well, let's say you had misread the finish and leaned early. Would I want you to have another chance? Yes. Let's say you were running against somebody who did that. Would I want you to have to run again? No.
Right.
So it all depends on.
I'd still ask for
it
one.
All depends on
from you. I'd still want to go. 100's enough where it doesn't take a whole lot out of you.
True.
That was, of course, that was competing back in the day where we did trials and finals
in the 200 as well, right? Yeah, they did away with that several years after. Mixed feelings about that one still.
As we see our first heat of the girls now. Very close battle. Again, we've got lane 3 coming through, edging. And
first seeded section, Chloe, Zoe, Jana, Gwyneth, Mia, and Gabriella.
And, of course, that was lane 3 with the win. That was
Jana Young from Stevens, only a freshman.
So who do we have in Heat 2?
In Heat 2, we should see Tara from Plymouth, Mabel from Co-Brown, Devin from Oyster River, Abby from Conant, Leanne from Stevens, and Caitlin from Pembroke.
Oyster River always does a good job getting a couple sprinters in the mix every year.
Absolutely, yep.
Set, and they're off.
That looks like Devin McLean from Oyster River. A good strong start.
And a good strong finish for the win.
Yep. Not bothering to lean, knowing that she's got a final coming later on. She wasn't going to go all out for that preliminary heat. Just enough to secure her advancement to the final.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll see something go wrong with a lean, where an athlete might overlean, kind of tumble forward a bit, and you don't want to see that. So,
especially not in the preliminary heat.
Of course, she has enough experience under her belt where she knows that this early in the season, prelims, not really going to be your best time of the year. So why bother with it? Making the smart play there. And we do have our third group of girls jumping around, getting ready to get in the block, shaking out a little bit.
This is going to be Brianna from John Stark, Catherine from Plymouth, Ella from Hanover, Madison from Pembroke, Caitlin from Kingswood, and Kate from Oyster River.
And of course, jumping around like that, getting warm, making sure we have all those fast twitch muscles firing as the official does have them come up. Not sure why. I know in a previous heat I did see someone actually slip out of their blocks. Yeah. So it is wet out there.
Kaylin LaChapelle of Sanborn Regional, Emma Wheeler of Interlakes, Greta Achenbach of Interlakes.
This is Ella McLean from Hanover, who is our top seed coming in. 12.86.
And finally, Haley Drew of Conant.
Again, getting a nice little shake, making sure everything's nice and loose. You want to stay loose while you're sprinting.
Yeah.
Everything should be relaxed.
Hardy, Rodish, Achenbach, Wheeler, LaChapelle.
Yeah, you don't actually run faster by trying to run faster. You run faster by just staying loose.
And again, nice flying V for our finishes.
This is Ella McLean.
Our top seed.
And behind her, from Plymouth, it looked like got second place. They're Catherine from Plymouth.
So now we do have our